The Devil Gene is one of the most powerful forces in the Tekken universe, and somehow also one of the least explained. It's not a curse, it's not magic, it's not science, but it keeps ruining stuff for the Mishima family anyway. In this video, we're going to explain exactly what the Devil Gene actually is. So what the hell is the Devil Gene? Before we talk about who has the Devil Gene, we need to deal with the far messier question of what the hell it actually is. Because Tekken has spent decades circling this idea without ever pinning it down, and that vagueness is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Officially, the Devil Gene, sometimes called Devil's Blood, Devil Factor, or just Devil Power, depending on which game you're playing, is a supernatural genetic abnormality tied specifically to the Hachijo bloodline. It's not a mutation in the X-Men sense, and it's not simply evil energy. It's a hereditary condition that allows a human being to act as a host for something else. Something Tekken repeatedly refers to as a devil, but never fully defines. And that's the key thing to understand right away. The Devil Gene is not only a power, it's a relationship. The most common interpretation is that the gene enables a parasite and host dynamic between a human and a malignant spiritual entity. When that entity takes over, the host transforms physically and psychologically. Wings, glowing eyes, horns, flight, superhuman strength, energy beams from a literal third eye, the works. The visual changes are only half the story though. The real danger of the Devil Gene happens before the transformation. Even when dormant, the devil is still there, nudging its host toward violence, selfishness, and cruelty. Characters affected by the Devil Gene consistently struggle with intrusive thoughts, emotional instability, and impulses that don't fully feel like their own. Early on, hosts have almost no control over this process. Transformations can happen without warning, often during moments of extreme trauma or emotional stress. The host typically has little say in when the devil takes over, what it does while in control, or when it chooses to relinquish control. Worse still, early manifestations often leave the host with no memory of what happened while they were transformed, reinforcing the idea that the devil is not just a power-up, but more of a separate entity. Tekken never gives us a clean checklist for how a devil awakens, but there are some patterns. First, you need devil blood, as it's genetic. Second, you need contact or possession by the devil itself. And third, there's almost always a trigger, usually something life-threatening. Several pieces of evidence suggest the Devil Gene activates when the host technically dies, only to be restored to life by the power of the gene. That's why early devil transformations are chaotic and destructive. The host has not learned how to coexist with what's inside them. Over time, though, something changes. Repeated transformations allow some hosts to merge with their devil instead of being overwritten by it. When that happens, the split personality starts to blur. Control increases. Memories remain intact. The devil becomes less of a possessor and more of a weapon, albeit a very dangerous one. Now, here's where Tekken deliberately muddies the waters. It's heavily implied that there may not be multiple devils at all, or at least not in the way you'd expect. There's strong evidence suggesting that Kazuya and Jin are carrying two halves of the same devil, split across generations. Kazumi's devil was destroyed before Kazuya's fully awakened, which raises the unsettling possibility that the Hachijo clan were not just cursed, they were also custodians, a family bound to contain, control, or pass down a single malignant entity. Alternatively, the devil might not be an external being at all. Another interpretation suggests that the Devil Gene manifests power as a devil, that the monstrous form is a psychological and physical projection of the power itself. In this reading, the devil is not a parasite, but the shape that overwhelming power takes when filtered through human fear, desire, and guilt. And then there's Azazel. Everything about the Devil Gene eventually leads back to it. Azazel is an ancient demonic entity sealed away to prevent the destruction of the world, and according to archaeologist Professor Niklas Kleeson, it directly created devils by granting fragments of its power to exceptional humans. These devils acted as its servants, tapping into superhuman abilities through a single driving force: desire. Azazel explicitly considers Kazuya and Jin its minions. It speaks to Jin directly. Its presence amplifies the Devil Gene, and while Jin once believed killing Azazel would destroy the devil within him, that turned out to be painfully optimistic at best. Azazel was not truly erased, just diminished. And as later games reveal, devils can absorb Azazel's remaining power the same way they absorb strength from other devil gene users, which reframes the devil gene entirely. It's not just a curse or a bloodline quirk, it's a pipeline, a mechanism designed to channel, preserve, and grow power in an ancient, destructive way across generations. And the more these devils fight, survive, and evolve, the closer that power gets to fully manifesting again. And that brings us to the people who carry it. So, who is the devil? Before we start naming names, we need to talk about the devil itself. The devil is the entity at the heart of the devil gene, an actual conscious presence that has been riding shotgun in the Mishima bloodline for generations. Originally, it was simply known as the devil. It wasn't Devil Kazuya or Devil Jin yet, because it wasn't split. It was a single malignant force that existed alongside Kazuya Mishima, feeding off his hatred, anger, and obsession with power. Only later, once the gene fractured across generations, did it start manifesting as separate identities. Despite how the series sometimes muddies the terminology, the devil and the devil gene are effectively the same thing. The gene is the mechanism, the devil is what lives inside it. Canonically, this all traces back to Kazumi Mishima, Kazuya's mother and a member of the Hachijo clan. She was its original modern vessel, gifted the power directly through Azazel's influence. That makes Kazumi the starting point of the Mishima curse as we know it, and Kazuya its most catastrophic outcome. In the original game, Devil exists as an alternate version of Kazuya, a visual representation of how completely his hatred has consumed him. By Tekken 2, that subtext becomes explicit. The devil is no longer just an alternate costume, he's the final boss, the antagonist, a being with his own will, goals, and appetite for destruction. This is where Tekken establishes something really important. Devil is not loyal to Kazuya because of blood. He's loyal because Kazuya embraces hatred willingly. After Kazuya is nearly killed at the end of the second King of Iron Fist tournament, the devil splits. One half remains with Kazuya. The other, through inheritance, trauma, and, bad luck, embeds itself in Jin Kazama years before Tekken 3. This split radically shifts how the devil behaves. With Kazuya, the devil is calculating, cold, and patient. It doesn't need to dominate him outright because Kazuya's goals already align with its own: power, control, revenge. Over time, with the help of G Corporation's experiments, Kazuya doesn't suppress the devil so much as become one with it. The two become one mind, one will. Kazuya gains full access to Devil's power, and Devil gains something far more valuable: a host who wants what it wants. With Jin, it's the opposite. Jin resists, he fights, he hates what the devil represents and spends much of the series trying to purge it from himself entirely. That internal conflict is why Devil Jin feels louder, more violent, and less controlled than Devil Kazuya. The devil inside Jin is not being welcomed. Personality-wise, the devil is exactly what Tekken presents it as: power-hungry, sadistic, and utterly remorseless. It enjoys pain. It enjoys fear. It believes domination is proof of worth. But unlike Devil Jin's explosive rage, the devil's original incarnation is quieter, smarter, crueler in a way that is much more deliberate. And crucially, the devil likes Kazuya, because Kazuya surrendered to malice without needing to be pushed. That's why characters like Jin Kazama and Angel exist as existential threats to the devil. Not because they're stronger, but because they represent rejection, purity, resistance, things the devil cannot easily corrupt. Throughout the series, there's a lingering question that fans keep asking: who is actually in control? Even after Kazuya claims mastery over himself, there are moments where his personality visibly shifts, where fond memories curdle into cruelty without any warning. The implication is uncomfortable but consistent. The devil cells may never truly be subordinate. By Tekken 8, that fear is fully realized. After absorbing Azazel's remaining power, the devil ascends into true Devil Kazuya, no longer a corrupted human form, but something closer to the original destructive force Azazel intended his devils to become. Azazel. Long before the Mishimas ever threw each other off cliffs, Azazel ruled as an ancient demon being known as the Rectifier, a self-appointed force of judgment over humanity. And rather than conquering the world directly, Azazel did something far more dangerous. It shared its power. In ancient times, Azazel granted fragments of its own essence to selected humans, allowing them to draw on their darkest desires and fears to manifest supernatural strength and monstrous forms. These humans became the first devils and Azazel's servants. Unlike Jin or Kazuya, Azazel does not carry the devil gene, it is the source code. The devil gene is essentially diluted Azazel energy passed down through human bloodlines over centuries. This is why Azazel views devil gene characters like Jin and Kazuya as extensions of itself, and why their conflict directly feeds its resurrection. Their hatred, violence, and emotional extremes generate the negative energy Azazel needs to regain physical form. This connection is also why Azazel can only be truly harmed by someone with the devil gene. Ordinary fighters can defeat its body, but only devil gene power can reach its core. Jin realizes this in Tekken 6 and believes killing Azazel will erase the devil gene, a tragic miscalculation, since Azazel's spirit survives, proving the gene has long since outgrown its creator. By Tekken 8, that relationship comes full circle. Kazuya does not defeat Azazel, he absorbs it, forcibly reclaiming the source of the devil gene to evolve into true devil Kazuya. At that point, Azazel stops being a god and becomes fuel. In short, Azazel is not another devil gene victim, he's the original sin that made it possible, and the reason the Mishima bloodline was doomed from the start. And now that you understand what the devil is, we can finally talk about the people unlucky enough to carry it. Kazuya Mishima. Kazuya Mishima is the original and most complete expression of the devil gene in the Tekken series. While Kazuya's personal history is deeply explored elsewhere, what matters here is how the devil gene defines him, not just as a power source, but as a constant force shaping his identity, choices, and destiny. Kazuya inherited the devil gene at birth from his mother, Kazumi Mishima, a member of the Hashijo clan, whose bloodline was tied to Azazel and the ancient devil gene. However, the gene remained dormant until Kazuya was thrown off a cliff by his father when he was 5 years old. This near-death experience triggered the devil gene's activation, granting Kazuya superhuman strength, regenerative abilities, and the capacity to manifest the entity known as Devil. Early materials described this as a pact with the devil, but later canon clarified it as a genetic condition capable of housing a separate malevolent consciousness. Unlike Jin Kazama, whose devil gene exists in constant conflict with his moral compass, Kazuya comes to embrace the devil very quickly. For much of his life, Devil acted as a parasiting force amplifying Kazuya's hatred and ambition, frequently attempting to seize full control. This internal struggle culminates in Tekken 4, where Kazuya forcibly suppresses Devil and merges with it completely, becoming a single unified entity. With the aid of G Corporation's experiments, he gains the ability to transform at will, channel Devil's power consciously, and suppress its independent influence. However, while Kazuya believes himself fully in control, the series frequently hints that the devil gene continues to erode his humanity, subtly steering his action toward domination, destruction, and absolute power. By Tekken 7 and 8, Kazuya represents the devil gene at its most refined and dangerous. After absorbing Azazel's power, he ascends into true devil Kazuya, a form that surpasses all previous manifestations of the gene. His eventual defeat and purification at Jin's hands temporarily strip him of the devil gene, but his long history makes one thing clear. No character has ever fully embodied the devil gene as completely or as willingly as Kazuya Mishima. Jin Kazama. If Kazuya represents what happens when you embrace the devil gene, Jin represents what happens when you spend your entire life trying to escape it. Born to Kazuya Mishima and Jin Kazama, Jin inherits the devil gene from his father, but also something completely incompatible with it: the Kazama clan's spiritual discipline, restraint, and emphasis on protecting life. That contradiction is the core of Jin's story, and why his version of the devil gene behaves so differently from anyone else's. For most of Jin's childhood, the devil gene is dormant. He's raised in isolation on Yakushima by Jun, trained in Kazama-style self-defense, and kept far away from the Mishima legacy. That peace ends violently when Ogre attacks, Jun disappears, and Jin is pushed directly into the hands of Grandpa Heihachi. From that moment on, Jin is caught between three forces: Mishima brutality, Kazama restraint, and the devil gene waiting for trauma severe enough to wake it up. That moment comes at the end of Tekken 3. Jin wins the tournament and defeats Ogre, and is immediately executed by his own granddad. The betrayal is what finally triggers the Devil Gene. Jin resurrects, transforms, and becomes Devil Jin for the first time. Unlike Kazuya, this transformation is uncontrolled, furious, and purely reactive. At no point does Jin choose the Devil Gene. It drags him back from death, whether he wants it or not. From here on, Jin's entire arc becomes about denial. In Tekken 4, Jin actively rejects everything Mishima. He abandons Mishima-style karate, retrains in traditional forms, and tries to destroy the bloodline altogether. What's important is that the Devil Gene does not disappear during this phase. It resists extraction, refuses to be absorbed by Kazuya, and reacts violently whenever Jin is cornered emotionally. His Kazama blood doesn't purge the Devil Gene, it just suppresses it, and suppression turns out to be far more dangerous. By Tekken 5, the Devil Gene starts manifesting without Jin's consent. Blackouts, mass destruction, near-fatal attacks on people he cares about. Devil Gene is a separate will intruding on Jin's consciousness. When Jin takes control of the Mishima Zaibatsu after killing Jinpachi, it's not because he wants power. It's because he believes power is the only way to end the curse. And this is where Jin becomes terrifying. In Tekken 6, Jin commits the single most extreme act in the series. He starts a global war on purpose out of a warped sense of responsibility. Azazel whispers to him, and Jin becomes convinced that if he can resurrect and kill Azazel, the Devil Gene will die with it. Jin doesn't see himself becoming the villain. When Azazel is defeated and Jin survives anyway, the truth becomes unavoidable. You cannot kill the Devil Gene by running from it, suppressing it, or burying it under good intentions. By Tekken 7, and especially Tekken 8, Jin's relationship with the Devil Gene finally changes. Instead of denial or domination, he moves toward integration. Through guidance from others, Xiaoyu, Lars, Leroy, and ultimately Jun, Jin begins to understand that the Devil Gene responds to desire. Kazuya's feeds on greed and domination. Jin's responds to fear, guilt, and self-loathing. On Yakushima, Jin confronts Devil Jin not as a monster to be destroyed, but as a part of himself that has been acting out of misunderstood purpose. For the first time, Jin does not reject the Devil Gene. Instead of anger, he anchors it to protection. Instead of hatred, resolve. That's what leads to Angel Jin, not a replacement for Devil Jin, but a corrected expression of the same power. And in the final confrontation with Kazuya, something unprecedented happens. The Devil Gene is purified. Jin survives not because he sacrifices himself, but because he finally accepts that wanting to live and wanting others to live is not a weakness. It's the one thing the Devil Gene could never corrupt once it stopped being fueled by self-destruction. Kazumi Mishima. Unlike Kazuya or Jin, Kazumi didn't inherit the Devil Gene unknowingly. She was born into it. As a member of the Hachijo clan, Kazumi comes from the bloodline most directly tied to the power of Azazel. The Hachijo's entire purpose was to monitor dangerous individuals and eliminate them if they threatened the world. The Devil Gene for them was not a curse, but a tool. Kazumi's devil form manifests as a complete transformation, granting her flight, energy attacks like Devil's Beam, and a far colder, more sadistic personality. Crucially, this form is not always under her control. For much of her life, Kazumi actively suppresses it, which causes her recurring illness and physical weakness. The longer she resists her mission, the stronger the devil within her becomes. Most importantly, Kazumi is the origin point of the Mishima Devil Gene. Kazuya inherits it directly from her, not from Heihachi, confirming that the Devil Gene's presence in the Mishima bloodline begins with Kazumi. Everything that follows can be traced back to her blood. Reina. Unlike every Devil Gene carrier before her, Reina doesn't awaken her power by accident, inheritance alone, or emotional collapse. She studies it, tests it, tries to force it. From the moment she's introduced in Tekken 8, Reina is already operating with an understanding of how the Devil Gene works, specifically that extreme stress and the threat of death are key triggers for activation. As Heihachi Mishima's secret daughter, Reina carries Mishima blood, but her connection to the Devil Gene is notably delayed. She does not display devil powers initially, nor does she awaken them through rage or trauma. Instead, she deliberately engineers situations designed to provoke activation. most notably by intentionally placing herself in the path of Devil Kazuya's laser attack. When Reina's devil form manifests, it confirms that the devil gene is no longer exclusive to Kazumi's bloodline through Kazuya and Jin. It can re-emerge through the Mishimas themselves, suggesting either dormant compatibility in Heihachi's lineage or contamination through prolonged exposure to devil energy across generations. In narrative terms, Reina closes the devil gene's loop. Azazel created it, Kazumi weaponized it, Kazuya abused it, Jin tried to end it. Reina isn't possessed by the devil, she invites it in and tells it exactly where it belongs. The devil gene is the backbone of Tekken's entire mythology. Before Tekken became a saga about bloodlines, fate, and inherited violence, it was just a fighting tournament with vaguely supernatural elements. The devil gene is the narrative device that retroactively binds the series together, recontextualizing earlier games and giving Tekken a throughline that stretches from Kazuya's childhood trauma to the apocalyptic stakes of Tekken 8. It transforms the devil from a vague spiritual force into something far more unsettling, a biological curse passed down through generations that turns personal hatred into world-ending power. At its core, the devil gene externalizes the Mishima family's defining trait, violence. Heihachi may not possess the gene himself, but he is its greatest catalyst. Every major devil gene awakening traces back to his actions, throwing Kazuya off a cliff, shooting Jin after Tekken 3, engineering cycles of betrayal that push his descendants to the brink of death. The devil gene feeds on the Mishima's obsession with strength, dominance, and survival. Mechanically and narratively, the devil gene also explains why certain characters consistently break the rules of Tekken's world. Flight, laser beams, instant recovery from fatal wounds. They reinforce that devil gene users operate outside normal human limits. Kazuya survives a volcano. Jin awakens after being clinically dead. Reina deliberately steps into a laser to trigger the transformation. Just as important is how the series explores resistance to the devil gene. The Kazama bloodline introduces a counterweight. Jun, Asuka, and Jin himself represent the idea that the devil gene can be restrained, delayed, or even rejected through will, serenity, or even genetic opposition. Meanwhile, science offers a darker alternative. Projects like Genocell prove that humanity can interfere with the devil gene, but never safely. Every attempt to control it through technology ends in failure, reinforcing Tekken's recurring message. This power cannot be cleanly separated from the person who carries it. Ultimately, the devil gene is important because it defines Tekken's central conflict, not good versus evil, but inheritance versus choice. And that's the video, folks. Drop your favorite devil gene moment in the comments below. And if you want more explainers like this, like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.